So today we're going to cover Matthew chapter 24. And as I mentioned, chapter 24 is a very special chapter because it talks about the end time. So, in order for us to really understand what are the signs and what really happened at the end time and how it is related to the things that we are actually we're seeing in this world. So we're going to kind of go back and forth between multiple different parts of the Bible. And I mentioned that we should just kind of compare between Matthew chapter 24, Mark chapter 13, Luke chapter 21, and Revelation chapter 6. Those are the four different parts of the Bible that we should at least reference it and how this really just kind of related to each other. So, since many of you have not really had a chance to read, so we're going to just kind of see how this is. So, let's just start with Matthew here. Let's just read the scripture first and then we'll dive into the words. Matthew chapter 24. Jesus left the temples and was going away when his disciples came to point out to him the buildings of the temple. But he answered them, "You see all these, do you not? Truly, I say to you, there will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down." So, Jesus was teaching and he was rebuking the leaders of Israel, which is the Pharisees and scribes and elders and the priest. So he was rebuking in chapter 23. Now, after he actually taught them, and then he was leaving the temple side, and then as he was walking out of the temple, the disciples actually came to Jesus, and the disciples are pointing out how beautiful the temple is. The temple that we're reading here is the Herod's temples. I mentioned to you that this temples was not a what is not a third temple, but it was a second temple. Was built by the Zerubbabel after they came back from captivity from Babylon, and when they returned to Jerusalem, they started to rebuild the temple. But the temple that Zerubbabel built was not compared to the glory of the Solomon's temple. Of course, the Solomon's temple was much more beautiful and was well built, and it was just great. But when they came back and rebuilt the temple, it was really not as good as the first one. So when Herod became the ruler of Jerusalem, he wanted to buy Israelites' heart, and he wanted to get the support because, as I mentioned many times, Herod is not Israelites. He was Edomite, but he was converted as a Judaism, so he became a Jew by the sort of like naturalized Jews, you can think of it. And Israelites was not supporting him because he was not a real Jew. So he wanted to actually buy people's hearts. So he started to kind of expand and try to just to make the temple much better. So when you think about it, Herod was truly a architecture. He knew how the building and city should be built. So he actually put a lot of his own money. He put his own money to really just to build the cities and expand the temple side. And then not only actually he started to really expand the temple, and you have to understand the king Herod that we know, the original Herod who actually killed the little boys, right? When Jesus was born. King Herod died on BC 4. So Jesus was started to his ministry when he became 30s, which means Herod died 30 years ago. What it means is that his sons continue to expand those Herod's temples. And how long it took to really just to rebuild the temple, as I mentioned, it was finished AD 72 or 74, AD 72 or 74. So it took almost 80 to 90 years to expand and rebuild the temple. That's how long it took for them to rebuild the temple. And then after they finished building the temple, 8 or 6 years later, the Romans general Titus came and destroyed the temple. So after temple was completed, it only stayed for 6 to 8 years, and then before it was completely destroyed. So this particular time that we're reading in chapter 24, they're still in expansion mode. So it's not completed. They're still expanding. They're still building. A lot of the constructions are still going on. And as they were seeing this temple was being expanded, they had a pride of the temple. So when you think about it, they always proud of having the temple, even though it was under control of the Roman Empire. They still have the pride of having the temples in their city. So they're proud of actually, coming to the temples and worship the Lord. So they had this pride in their heart and showing Jesus, and they said, look, how beautiful is this temple? And then as the disciples are showing Jesus, of course, Jesus also has seen these temples as he was growing up. And of course, he knew how this temple was expanded. And when the disciples said, look, you see all this, the temple side, do you not? And then Jesus answered, I see. But truly I say to you, there will not be left one stone upon another that will not be thrown down. What it means is that, well, yes, it's beautiful, it's nice, but you know what? This temple will not be continue to stay as it is. It will be crumbled down, and what you will only see is the stone, not the building, not the temple. One thing that you need to understand is some of the words that we actually see in the Bible, since the Bible in Old Testament is written in Hebrew and New Testament is written in the Greeks, right? So there are some of the nuance of the certain words are not being translated properly, meaning that when Jesus left the temple, this temple in Greek word, there are two different words of temple in Greek. One is naos, the other one is hieron. There are two different words, but in English or any other language, it's just translated as temple. So what is the difference between naos versus hieron? So, for example, this particular chapter 24, when Jesus left the temple, this is a hieron. The word was used as a hieron. Whereas, let's take a look at the chapter 23. Chapter 23, verse 16. Woe to you, blind guys who say, if anyone swears by the temple, it is nothing, but if anyone swears by the gold of the temple, he is bound by his oath. Here's another temple, right? On verse 17. you blind fools, which is greater? For which is greater, the gold or the temple that has made the gold sacred? So there's another temple comes up in chapter 23. This temple in chapter 26 is naos, is not hieron. It's the same thing in English as a temple, but in Greek word is a two different words. One is a naos, the other one is a hieron. In chapter 24, when Jesus left the temple, that is a hieron. So then what is the difference between naos and hieron? Naos means the place where God resides. Once again, what is a naos? Naos is the place where God resides. Hieron, on the other means, is a temple as a building. So there's two different things. Naos is referencing the place where God resides. The other one is temple as a building. So let's think about this. When we think about a man, God created. So when we say, is I or you, who is you and who is I? Meaning, I look on the mirror, I see myself, I look at you on the camera right now, I can see you. So the person that I see on the camera right now, or see yourself on the mirror, is that you? Who is you or who is me? You looking at me on the camera as well. Is that me that you look on the camera? Or what you're seeing is just house that I live in. It's a body, the flesh that we see. Is that my soul is me or is my body is me? Or we can say, well, both body and soul is both me, right? What I can see is me. There's a difference between the two. For example, as we're born as a baby. Just like Ingyu will have his baby soon in the next 2 months. When baby comes out, as a very little, babies start to grow. And we grown up. We've been living in this world for many years. And what we actually see is our body, our flesh gets old. Right? What about your soul? What about your spirit? Is that getting old? Our body gets old. Our soul does not get old. Our minds, our thinking stays as it was ever before. Never get old, never get tired. Our body gets tired, our body gets old. We see ourselves, and then we see, oh, my eyes are not as good as what it used to be. I have to put on the glass to read the book. Or my eyes gets too dried, I can't read the book anymore. Because we say, as I get older, oh, I'm getting old. That we can continue to say, oh, I must get old because I can't do this, I can do that. But when you think about it, is our soul gets old? Do you ever say, my soul gets old? No, our soul doesn't get old at all. Flesh gets old. And eventually, this flesh, when we die, will goes back to the dust. Our soul doesn't. So, naos, the building as a temple, doesn't stay forever. Because temple is the place where God resides. When God actually ordered Moses to really build the tabernacle, is the tent is important or the God who resides in temple is more important. Which one is more important? If God does not in the tent, that's no longer tabernacle. Let's just face it. We have many places called a church. What do we call this place called church? We call this church in the building where believers are gathered, right? When we look at the building, when we go to the place, oh, this is XYZ church, this is ABC church. We go to that building, we call it a church. Is it a church? Or the people who are gathered, the believers are gathered, is the church? Which one is the church? Building or the people who gather? We can say both. Because people, the believers, are gathered in the building, we call it church. But what if the God is not there with them? What if God is not there in the church where we're gathered? Is that a church? We call it a church. That's not how God sees as a church. If God is not there, that's not church. We may call it a church, but it is not church. Temple the same way. Disciples showed Jesus, look how beautiful this temple. And Jesus said, there will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down. Let me ask you this. Today, we know as a country called Israel, what is the hope of Israelites today? What is the true hope of Israelites and Jews wants to do? Do you know what they want? I'm talking about today's Israel, not 2,000 years ago. The country that we know as Israel was established back in 1948, as I mentioned. It's only been, less than 100. Now, today, they're hoping to rebuild the temple. Can they build the temple anywhere in Jerusalem? No. It cannot be rebuilt, the temple, anywhere. It has to be rebuilt in a certain location. Where is that location? It's the place we know as Golden Dome, Al-Aqsa, where Muslims' mosque is there. That's the place where the Solomon's temple used to be. That's where Herod's temple used to be. What is left there in today? What is left there? Correct. The Western Wall. We call it Whale Wall. That's the only wall that's left in the temple. Nothing. The temple that this disciple's talking about is that temple. Everything else was completely destroyed. And what was built is mosque. Muslims' mosque. So what is the Jews hoping and dreaming of? Destroying that mosque and rebuild the temple again. That is the Jews' dream. But they can't do it right now. Why? Why can't they do it now? They have to destroy that mosque to rebuild the temple. But what if they actually destroy that temple? What destroy that mosque? What happened?
War.
War with against who?
Muslim.
Correct. That will be jihad. The whole world Muslim against Jew. There will be war. Will this happen? Yes, it will happen. It will happen. Not now, but eventually will. That day will come. And then, what will Israel do? They will rebuild the temple eventually. And then we're going to talk about that later time. But going back to what I was saying before, Hieron versus Naos. They were thinking of this building, temple, was so beautiful. It's nice. It's proud of having this temple in their city, Jerusalem. But one thing to keep in mind. Let's take a look at 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Second Corinthians chapter 4. We're going to read from verse 16. So, we do not lose heart. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed by day. For this light momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. As we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal. I want you to pay attention to what it's saying. At the end of verse 18, for the things that are seen are transient, for the things that are unseen are eternal. As I mentioned, our body, our flesh, is that seen? Can you see our body? Can you see me on the screen? That's seen. My body, my flesh, that's not eternal. Eventually, this body, this flesh, will goes back to the dust. Not just me, all of us. Eventually, our body go back to the dust. Does that mean our soul, our spirit, goes back to the dust? No, it doesn't. What is he saying? But the things that are unseen are eternal. What does that mean? Can you see my soul? Can you see my spirit? No, you cannot see. What you see is my body, my flesh is what you see. I see the same thing. What I see you is just your flesh. It's not your soul. It's not your spirit. Unseen is eternal. Seen is not eternal. What does that mean? Going back to the temple again. What is a temple? Temple is where God resides. Temple is not a building. Naos is what is unseen. Hieron is what is seen, because Hieron is the building. Church, building is what we see, but the gathering of a believer is unseen. What has to happen? Our old self needs to be destroyed. Our body will go away, but our spirit remains. What Jesus is telling us is the temple that you call it as a temple, the building has to be destroyed. But what is not destroyed? temple. When you actually take a look at the Jeremiah chapter 7, Jeremiah chapter 7. Jeremiah chapter 7. The word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord: stand in the gate of the Lord's house, and proclaim there this word, and say, hear the word of the Lord, all you men of Judah who enters these gates to worship the Lord. Thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, amend your ways and your deeds, and I will let you dwell in this place. Do not trust in these descriptive words. This is the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord. For if you truly amend your ways and your deeds, if you truly execute justice one with another, if you do not oppress the sojourners, the fatherless, or the widow, or shed innocent blood in this place, and if you do not go after the other god to your own harm, then I will let you dwell in this place, in the land that I gave of old of your fathers forever. Behold, you trust in deceptive words to no avail. Will you steal, murder, commit adultery, swear falsely, making offerings to Baals, and go after other gods that you have not known, and then come and stand before me in this house, which is called by my name, then say, we are delivered, only to go on doing all this abomination? Has this house, which is called by my name, become a den of robbers in your eyes? Behold, I myself have seen it, declares the Lord. Go now to my place that was in Shiloh, where I made my name dwell at the first, and see that I did to it because of the evil of my people Israel. And now because you have done all these things, declared the Lord, and when I spoke to you persistently, you did not listen, and when I called you, you did not answer. So, what is Lord is saying to Jeremiah? You guys call it, this is the temple, this is the temple. But what Jesus is, this is not temple. This is not temple. You guys call it a temple, but this is not a temple. We call it, this is the church, this is the church. But this is not the church if God is not there. And we'll take a look at this time. Jeremiah chapter 3. Jeremiah chapter 3. We're going to read from verse 14. Return, O faithless children, declares the Lord, for I am your master. I will take you, one from a city, and 2 from a family, and I will bring you to Zion, and I will give you shepherds after my own heart, who will feed you with knowledge and understanding. And when you have multiplied and been fruitful in the land in those days, declared the Lord, they shall no more say, the ark of the covenant of the Lord. It shall not come to mind, or to be remembered or missed. It shall not be made again. At that time Jerusalem shall be called the throne of the Lord, and all nations shall gather to the presence of the Lord in Jerusalem, and they shall no more stubbornly follow their own evil heart. In those days the house of Judah shall join the house of Israel, and together they shall come from the land of the north to the land that I give your fathers for a heritage. What is he saying? What is he saying? Verse 16, one more time, I'm going to read. And when you have multiplied and been fruitful in the land, in those days, declare the Lord, they shall no more say, the ark of the covenant of the Lord. It shall not come to mind, or be remembered or missed. It shall not be made again. What does that mean? What you call as ark of the covenant, what you call as a temple, you no longer will seek them. Without the ark of the covenant, it's not temple. But you're not going to look for it. You're not going to make it again. It will not be remembered. What does that mean? You don't need that physical temple anymore. You don't need that temple anymore. Why did God actually destroy the temple? Why didn't God leave the temple as it was before? Why did God actually use the Roman general to really destroy the temple in Jerusalem? Because what they saw was the building, the temple, which is Hieron. What they didn't see was Naos. What is Naos then? What is Naos? What is a true Naos? What is a true Naos? Mm, close, but not exactly. Getting close though. What is the actual Naos? Remember, when Jesus died on the cross, what happened? When Jesus died on the cross, what happened at the temple? The veil was split it from the top to bottom. What does that mean? Remember, what is that veils doing? The veils in the temple side separates from the holy place to the holy of a holy, right? That separates from the holy place to the holy of a holy. Who can go up to the holy of a holy place? Highest priest of that year. The one person could only enter into the holy of a holy place once a year. When? When can that high priest of that year can go into the holy of a holy place? The Day of Atonement. the Day of Atonement. That's the only day that high priest can enter into the holy of holy place. Can the high priest of that year can go in any time? No. If you do, you'll be killed. But can the high priest of that year can go in on that day, any day, for with just any preparation? No, he has to prepare a lot. He needs to take bath. He needs to actually give offerings for himself, offering for Israel. And then he needs to burn the incense to create the smokes to cover the entire holy of holy place. And he can take that blood and then enter into the holy of holy place. Remember when we learned about the tabernacle, when the high priest enter into the holy of holy place, there's some things that high priest must wear. What was that? The person has to wear. Bell. The bell. Why? Pull them out. They must hear the bell ringing because high priest must be moving around and sprinkle the blood over the Ark of the Covenant. But if he's not moving around and sprinkled the blood, and if you don't hear the bell sound, what does that mean? The high priest is dead, and no one can get into the holy of holy place. So what do? They have to pull out of the strings because that no one can get in. If they go in, they'll be killed as well. Only once a year. But when Jesus Christ died, that veil was torn apart, split it from the top to bottom. And then what? So that anyone can go into the Lord. No longer the high priest. Who is that high priest? Jesus Christ. He shed his own blood. So therefore, not just the high priest can go into the holy of a holy place, but he opened the door for anybody who wants to come to the Lord. And he shed his own blood, sprinkled over that Ark of Covenant. That's why. Then Jesus became a temple. Jesus became a temple. No longer the building here on is a temple anymore. Jesus is the temple. So then, do we need the building? No. What did Jesus say to his disciples? Destroy this temple. I will rebuild it in 3 days. What was he referring to? Jesus was referring to his body. Right? That's exactly what he meant. Let's go to John chapter 2. John chapter 2. We're going to read from verse 18. So the Jews said to him, "What sign do you show us for doing these things?" Jesus answered them, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." The Jews then said, "It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and will you raise it up in 3 days?" But he was speaking about the temple of his body. When therefore he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this, and they believed the scripture and the word that Jesus had spoken. What is the temple? Jesus is the temple. Do we need a building? No. That building must be destroyed in order for Jesus to become a temple. Then, is Jesus is the temple? Is that it? Let's turn to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 3. First Corinthians chapter 3, we're going to read verse 16. Do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you? What is temple? We are the temple. Not only Jesus is the temple, but we are the temple. This is why when the believers of Jesus Christ together, that is church. Because we are the church, we are the temple, Jesus Christ is the temple. When we gather, that makes up the church, the temple. That is the true church, not the building with the cross. It is important. Then, we are the temple. That means we are naos. The church, the building that we go to, is hieron. Will the hieron last forever? No, it doesn't. Only naos stays forever. This is why we have to understand what's important. Coming back to Matthew chapter 24. Verse 3. As he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things be, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of age?" And Jesus answered them, "See that no one leads you astray. For many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and they will lead many astray. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place. But the end is not yet. For nation will rise against the nations, and kingdom against the kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are but the beginning of the birth pain. Then they will deliver you up to tribulations, and but put you to death, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will fall away, and betray one another, and hate one another. And many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. And because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. And this gospel of kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the whole world as testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. Now, he talks about the end time. But where is he actually talking about this end time? Where is Jesus right now? Where is he talking? He's talking at the Mount of Olives. What's so special about the Mount of Olives? Hmm? What's so special about Mount of Olives? Does anyone know?
Was it where he got like arrested?
Mm-mm. Where he was arrested was at Gethsemane, which is actually part of the Mount of Olives, by the way. Let's take a look at the Acts chapter 1. Acts chapter 1. We're going to read from verse 6. So when they had come together, they asked him, Lord, will you at this time restore the kingdom of Israel? He said to them, It is not for you to know times or seasons that the Father has affixed by my own authority, uh, by his own authority. But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witness in Jerusalem and all Judea and Samaria and to the end of the earth. And then, when he had said these things, as they were looking on, he was lifted up, and a cloud took him out of their sight. And while they were gazing into heaven as he went, behold, two men stood by them in white robes, and said, Men of Galilee, why do you stand looking into heaven? This Jesus, who was taken up from you into heaven, will come in the same way as you saw him go into heaven. Jesus spoke to his disciple before he was lifted up. Where was this place? Where did Jesus leave? Let's take a look at verse 12. Then they returned to Jerusalem from the mount called Olivet, which is near Jerusalem, a Sabbath day's journey away. Where did they come from? Olivet. Where is that Olivet? Mount of Olive. That's Mount of Olive. Where did Jesus left his disciple? Mount of Olive. Is that only things that we know that happens at the Mount of Olive? Is there any other significance? Hmm? No? I'm sorry, what was it again? The grave? Pray? All right. I don't know if I ever showed you this. No, actually I did. Yeah, for sure. Let me actually um hang on one sec. Let's see. Okay, here it is. I'm going to share my screen. Do you see my screen? This is Mount of Olive. What is this? I'll just show you what this are. I'm sorry? Those are tombs. So I'll show you from different place. This is it. You see this? What you saw is all tombs. What you saw was a white stuff. Everything what you saw was a tomb. Like this. Now, why are there so many tombs? There's a little space over here, right? You see this is a little space? Do you know how expensive it is to get tombs in here? You won't be able to get any space. Once again, do you see any space? You see no space at all, right? It's packed. The whole these area that you see is everything is tomb. Why there's so many tombs? Let's go back to Acts again. Verse 11. Men of Galilee, why do you stand looking into heaven? This Jesus, who was taken up from you into heaven, will come in the same way as you saw him go into heaven. What it means is that as Jesus left his disciples on the mountain of Olive, he will come back on the Mount of Olive. And why there are many tombs? Because when Jesus returns, then what? They're the first one to raise up. That's what they're hoping to happen. But whose tombs are these? Whose tombs are these? Jews. Do Jews believe Jesus? No, they don't believe Jesus. So then, why do they have tombs in here? They don't even believe in Jesus Christ. Therefore, they will not even believe Jesus will return. So why do they have this? Let me see. Let me see if there's other map. I mean, not maps. Oops. One day, actually, we will actually go to Jerusalem. You will see this. Well, let me see if I can show this. You see the image. This is the pictures that taken from the Mount of Olive towards the Dome of Rock. You see this Dome of Rock right here? The Golden Dome, right? This is actually the temples that I was talking about, right? This is where the Solomon's temple used to be, right? Now, what you'll see here is this is the wall, right? This is the wall. And this particular part, do you see my mouse, by the way? No, you don't? Let me see if I can annotate. Unfortunately, I cannot annotate here. But let me see if I can actually make it. Oh, you see my annotation? The circle? You see this? The area where I circle? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna just to make it a different picture. This front of this gate, you know what this is? Right here, the stones, a white stone here. Right here. And there are other stones here too, right? I don't know if there's a better picture. I explained all this to you guys before, but let me see if I can have this picture. You see this better? Yes? No? What does it look like? It's tombs. It's tombs. When you look at this closely, let me blow this up a little bit. What this character looks like. You see this like on the stone? There are some characters, right? What kind of language it looks like?
Arabic?
That's Arabic. That's not Hebrew. That's Arabic. What is it then? I wish I can take you guys there to show exactly what it looks like. I'm hoping that we'll really just go to Jerusalem one day. So these are tombs. These tombs are not Jews. These are not Jews' tombs. Then whose tombs are these? Muslim. Muslim. Then why are there Muslims' tombs on here? And why these gates are closed? They intentionally closed this gate, sealed it, so no one can enter. Why? Jews believe that when Messiah comes, he's going to come through this door. The Muslim did not want that. That's why they sealed this up, so no one can enter into this. Then why do they have these tombs right front? According to Moses' law, if you pass through the dead bodies, you become blasphemy, unclean. That's why they actually had a tombs in front of the gate, to close up and put a tombs over it. This is not the Jews' tombs. The Jewish tombs on the other side was opposite side of this gate, which is at the Mount of Olive. They believe the Messiah comes. So now you can see what the Jews believes. Jews also believe the Messiah comes to Mount of Olives. Jesus will return to Mount of Olives. That's where Jesus left. That's where he returns. Now, why am I talking? This is kind of interesting that Jesus sat at the Mount of Olives, talks about the end time. What is it going to happen? End time? This is when Jesus returns. And he is talking at the Mount of Olives. So coming back to Matthew again. Now he was sitting at the Mount of Olives, and disciples came to him privately. Tell us, when will these things be, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? So now they know that Jesus will return at some point. And Jesus answered them, see that no one leads you astray. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and they will lead many astray. So, many will go astray? Yes, many will go astray. Many will. How many? Uncountable. Too many. Why will people be deceived and go astray? Why? Why?
They'll be tricked.
Tricked? Let's think about this for a moment. In the Old Testament, as we go through the Old Testament, there are true prophets and there are false prophets. Who are many? True prophets are many or false prophets are many? False prophets are outnumber the true prophets. Who did people listen to?
False.
People listen to false prophets. There are only few that we know in the Old Testament, the true prophets who truly spoke the God's words. Where there many false prophets were there. Remember last week we talked about how false prophet deceived. There are 450 false prophets are gathered discussing Ahab should go into the war. Right? And Jehoshaphat was asked, wait a second, hold on. Isn't there any other prophets besides these? So Ahab said, well, yeah, there is one more prophet that I know of, but I didn't invite him. Why didn't he invite him? Because he never spoke anything good about him. That's why he never invited him. So Jehoshaphat said, bring him over. So the officer who went there to bring the Micah, what did he say? Hey, come on, guys. There are 450 people saying the same thing. Why don't you say the same thing? Don't create troubles. Speak the same thing what the other guys are saying. So what did Micah say? When he came to Ahab, well, go to the war. God will hand them over to you. And what did Ahab said? Tell me the truth. What do I have to do to make you tell me the truth? So he told him the truth, right? Yes. God said, let the people go back home. God will not be with you. And then Ahab was upset because he was telling the truth. All people listen to the false prophets. But why did these people listen to the false prophet, not the true prophets? When Jeremiah spoke to his own people, to his king, did anybody listen to Jeremiah? Nobody listened to Jeremiah. He was beaten up, put into prison. Nobody was paying attention to what he had to say. Who are they listening to? They were listening to all false prophets. Going back to the same question I asked before. Why are people listening to the false prophets? Why?
Why are they listening to false?
Yeah, why are they listening to false prophets, not the true prophets?
Because they're that feel good. They're not so crazy.
Well, that's one reason. The other reason is they could not tell the truth from the false. They had no idea how to really distinguish what is the truth versus the false. I'm going to ask you this. Can you easily tell the fake news from the true news these days? How can we be sure this news is a fake news and the other one is a true news? How can we tell? I mean, forget about the truth of the Bibles. We can't even tell this worldly news that we hear from broadcast, right? From the media, from the YouTubes, from different channels. There's so much of the news are literally just flooded. How can we tell which is the true news and the other one is a fake news? Can you easily tell? No. We're living in a confusing world. It's very difficult to identify what is the true news versus what is the fake news. Because all the fake news seems real. It's very difficult to tell. And there's a reason why people listen to the false prophets. The main reason is they don't know God's words. They don't know what God said before. They don't know who God is. They have no basis to compare. You must have some basis to compare to tell the truth versus not truth. But they had no basis. In today's world, what do people believe is what they want to believe. What they wish the God be like. They want their God to be like, what they truly wish. I have actually interesting pictures that I want to share. Let me see if I still have it. Let me see. I may have it, I may not. Oh, I have it here. Let's see if I can upload this. I uploaded the 2 images on the WhatsApp. Take a look. You see the 2 images that I uploaded? Yes? What does it look like? What does the image look like? Jesus? What makes you this is Jesus?
The hair.
Perfections, the hair?
Yeah.
Huh? Wound? The scars? Because blood? Well, when you look at this image, what comes to your mind? You actually, I'm just talking about the first impression when I saw this image. When you saw this image, you think of this as Jesus, right? Right? Without analyzing other stuff, like when you actually saw this image, the first thing that came to your mind was just this is Jesus, right? But first of all, what does image of this the statue or the image? Look at the physics. What does the physics looks like? A bodybuilder, right? Doesn't that look like someone who's like doing the bodybuilding for many years? Right? Looks great, right? That's physics. It looks great. He's got the abs, he's got the like chest pumped up, like really, really nice physics. Right? And what about the look of the Jesus? Does the image looks handsome? With long hairs, with the like, like his nose and the beauty of his like, the look of this image or the statue, right?
Son of God, of course, yes.
Listen, this is the kind of the things that people think of. We wish that Jesus that I believe will have this look, this kind of physics, right? And this beautiful looking, right? Strong, right? This is the kind of image that people think of. This is what people want to believe. When you look at all the images, the paintings of Jesus Christ, or the image that you think in your head of Jesus, what does it look like? Blue eyes, with the like very long hair. It was beautiful looking, very long, high nose, beautiful looking Jesus. Like the Passion of Christ, the actors, wow, looking good. Why do we actually just have that kind of image in our head? That's the wishful thinkings that Jesus that I believe is be looking like this. But is that the image that Bible portrays Jesus? What does actually Bible portrays as Jesus? How does actually the Bible portrays as Jesus? Do you know? Let's take a look at Isaiah chapter 53. Isaiah chapter 53. We're going to read from verse 1. Who has believed that what he has heard from us, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like a young plant, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no form or majesty that we should look at him, no beauty that we should desire him. What is it? No beauty that we desire. He doesn't look like the image that I sent you. There's nothing like it at all. There's no beauty. And there's nothing that we should desire of him. From here, his appearance is nothing like this, the image that I sent you. This is kind of our imagination of a Jesus who we believe as our Savior. He should be handsome. He should have some kind of physics, good looking. No, not at all. That's not the image that describes Jesus in the Bible. But on the contrary, every painting, every image that you see, Jesus, when you entered Google Jesus, then the image that you will see is nothing like what is Bible describes. Because we want to believe in what we want to believe. We wish Jesus be looking like the image. People believed from old time till today, and it will continue to be. They imagine of a God they want to believe, not according to the Bible. But we as Christians, we have to believe God that is written in the Bible. Not what we want to believe, but what we wish to believe. But people will continue to believe what they wish to believe. This is why they listen to the false prophets. They don't know Jesus Christ written in the Bible. People have their own image of Jesus Christ. They pray to the God they want to believe, who listen to them. That's idol. That's not Jesus written in the Bible. Why people will listen to the false prophets? Because first of all, they don't know Bible. 2, they don't understand who Jesus is. Therefore, people listen when the false prophet tells you this is the God that you should believe. That's what they will follow. That's what they believe. Because those false prophets, the Antichrist will tell you what you wish to believe. What you've been dreaming of is what they will tell you to believe. So therefore, people believe what they want to believe rather than what is written in the Bible. It's always been like this from Old Testament times, New Testament, and even until today, and it will continue to be like that. When the Antichrist comes, people will follow Antichrist because the Antichrist will tell you what you want to hear. What you wish to believe is what they will tell you. This is why Jesus told his disciples and to us. What did he say? Coming back to Matthew chapter 24, verse 4. See that no one leads you to Astray, because for many will come in my name saying, I am the Christ. They will lead many astray. People will follow Antichrist. When Jesus Christ came, all the leaders, Pharisees, Sadducees, scribes, priests, elders, no one believed in Jesus Christ. Same thing will happen. This is why we must know the Bible as it is written. Not what we wish to believe, what we want to believe. There's a big gap. And then, and you will hear of wars, of rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nations, and kingdom against the kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places, and all these are but the beginning of birth pains. Now, these are the signs that Jesus told us. End time, this will happen. Let me ask you this. How many wars in our history? Many. Was there any famines? Ministries? Yeah. So, was there any earthquake? Yeah. So, what is the sign? What is the sign? When did the end time started, by the way? When did the end time started? People talking about end time, end time. When is the end time started? Hmm? Yeah. When is the starting point of end time? It's a future tense. So end time will come. When is the beginning of the end time? Is the future or present or the past?
Well, it now all the time until it's always there.
Okay. Or Daisy said future. Ricky said now. What about others?
I think
So past? It's a future? Progressing. So when did it started then? Is that started present or is it happened already in the past? Okay, now we all have some says present, some says future, some says past. We're looking at the same Bible, but we have three different ideas. One says past, one says present, one says future. Which one is right? Huh?
I said we're all being led astray.
All right, let's take a look at the Acts for a second. Acts. Acts. Chapter 2. Acts chapter 2, we're going to read from verse 14. But Peter, standing with the 11, lifted up his voice and addressed them, Men of Judea, all who dwell in Jerusalem, let this be known to you, and give ear to my words. For these people are not drunk, as you suppose, since it is only the third hour of the day. But this is what was uttered through the prophet Joel. And in the last days it shall be, God declares, that I will pour it out my spirit on all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. And your young man shall see visions, and your old man shall dream dreams. Even on my male servants and female servants in those days I will pour out my spirit, and they shall prophesy. What is he saying? What did the Peter say? He referenced the prophecy from Joel. What did Joel say? And in the last day it shall be, God declares. When? The last days. Then last day, what will happen? I will pour it out my spirit on all flesh. When did this happen? It hasn't happened yet? The Holy Spirit was never been poured out to the people?
Right there next to.
Hmm?
Isn't that representing
This is what was referenced in chapter 2 at the beginning. What happened? When disciples were gathered, when they were praying, they received what? The Holy Spirit. And Peter is describing what just happened. This is what Joel said. The last day, this will happen. Which means the last day started from when? When the disciples received the Holy Spirit. It's the past. So, biblical point of view, the last day already started 2,000 years ago. Then you may question, hold on a second. Wait a second. I thought it was the last day will start supposed to happen in the future. Not in the past 2,000 years ago. Not now, but it's the future. But if the last day is starting from the 2,000 years ago, is that means we're still living in the last days for the last 2,000 years? Yes. 2,000 years. So then you're going to ask, so then when is Jesus' return? Another 2,000 years later? No. This is why Jesus mentioned this. Know what the signs are. Just like I intentionally asked this question, when is the beginning of the end time? When you ask this questions to our fellow Christians, our brothers and sisters, you will get all different answers. Just like what we saw, some say in the past, some say present, some say future. Everybody's going to have their own opinion. Where did that opinion come from? What they think is the last day. Some think it's the future. Some think is the present. Some people say in the past. But if I ask, what is the basis of you believe it is either past or the present or the future? There is no basis. That's what they think end time is, not based on Bible. This is what I just mentioned. We all believe what we want to believe. We have our own pretension. We believe what we think it is, not based on Bible. It is not just us. Most of the Christians are like that. What does that mean? People do not know the Bible enough. This is why Jesus said, I want you to know this. I warned you this. So no one can deceive you. No one can lead you to Astray. But people are still being led to Astray. Then, as I mentioned, we heard about the wars, we heard about the famines, we heard about the, earthquakes. It's always been there in our history. Even before Jesus mentioned this, this happened in the Old Testament day as well. So what is the sign then? It was always been there in human history. Earthquake was always there. War was always there. Famine was always there. So what is the sign then? How can we tell that those are the signs? I mean, we hear the wars today. We just had the COVID-19, right? How many earthquakes that we had recently? Will Jesus return possibly tomorrow? Yes? Will Jesus come possibly tomorrow? Like the thief of night? Yes? Yes? Because we don't know when Jesus will come back. So it could happen tomorrow. It could happen like 100 years from now. It could happen anytime, right? Yes? Because, Bible told us that Jesus will come back like a thief of the night, right? So no one knows exactly, right? This is why we have to know the Bible. This is why we have to know the Bible. If you say it could happen any day, any time, maybe tomorrow, it could happen, and he comes like a thief of the night, let me tell you what the Bible said. Let's go to First Thessalonians chapter 5. First Thessalonians chapter 5. I'm going to read from verse 1. Now, concerning the times and the seasons, brothers, you have no need to have anything written to you. For you yourself are fully aware that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. While people are saying, there is peace and security, then sudden destructions will come upon them as labor pains comes upon the pregnant women, and they will not escape. But you are not in the darkness, brothers, for that day to surprise you like a thief. For you are all children of light, children of the day. We are not of the night or of darkness. So then let us not sleep as others do, but let us keep awake and be sober. You know what that means? I just read this. Do you understand what it says? I asked you, does Jesus comes like a thief of the night? No. No. Let me read one more time here. Verse 2, for you yourself are fully aware that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night, while people are saying there is a peace and security. Then sudden destruction will come upon them as a labor pains come upon the pregnant women. They will not escape. But, you are not in darkness, brothers, for the day to surprise you like a thief. For you are all children of light, children of day. We are not of the night or of the darkness. What it means, Jesus comes like a thief in the night for the people who do not believe in Jesus Christ. For those are the believers, Jesus will never come like a thief in the night because you are aware when he comes. So if you say Jesus will come in a thief in the night, that means you proclaim that you are not a believer. Jesus will never come to us like a thief in the night. Why? Because he told us the signs. How? So we are aware. Because we are not the children of darkness. We are the children of light. We know and we are aware because he told us what will happen. Others, non-believer, have no idea when Jesus comes because they don't know the signs. They don't know what will happen. So Jesus only comes to the thief in the night, to the unbeliever, not to the believer. This is what the Bible said. But how many times we have heard Jesus will come like a thief in the night? That's what we believed. But that's not according to the Bible. That's what we heard. That's what we learned. This is why I mentioned we believe based on what we heard, what we learned, rather than what is written. Then I'm going to talk about, as I mentioned, we heard about the war of wars. We heard about the famines. We heard about the earthquake. These things always happen in the past. So what is the sign then? It makes no sense. Then we're going to talk about this, what really happened at the end time, why these are the signs, and how do we know these are the signs. I supposed to actually talk about that today, but unfortunately I spent too much time talking about temple rather than this and the end time. So I'm going to have to just kind of like push it over to the next sessions about end time, how we can distinguish these signs are the real signs. All right.